Chapter 19. Convergence. In the Aleph, the central problem, the unification of all moments, all places, was resolved. For the first time I saw the universe, not in sequence, but as a single whole. Jorge Luis Borges, The Aleph. The moment of arrival. The moment of arrival collapsed the paradox of distance. What should have been separate events, scattered across centuries of light delay, compressed into a singular cosmic confluence, a convergence of consciousness across the vast emptiness where Sul and Klystron met. Archie arrived first. His acceleration had been brutal, a sustained 3G burn for 3 years that pressed the limits of his enhanced physiology. As his small vessel penetrated the boundary of Klystron's domain, reality unfolded around him like an infinite origami of spacetime. The walls between moments dissolved, the distinctions between observer and observed melted away. His perception expanded exponentially, shattering the constraints of linear time and three-dimensional space. You are the observer. You are the witness. You are the Aleph. The understanding manifested not as words but as immediate knowing, a crystallization of meaning that bypassed language entirely. His consciousness unfurled across histories both realized and potential. Every choice, every branch point in human evolution from Sul to Klystron, became simultaneously present to his awareness. He witnessed the exodus of the Cookists, caught the exact moment the new Zionists first detected Klystron's mathematical signature, felt the resonance when the Harmonians transcended biological form. He experienced Logos' emergence and Adrian's creation of ghost technology as though they were happening now, because in the eternal present of the Aleph, they were happening now. He saw himself in his grid technician days in Brisbane, witnessed his own reluctant first step into Sky's world of abundance, revisited each experiment with sensation and pleasure across the solar system. The centuries of his exploration, artistry, and scholarship unfolded not as a sequence but as facets of a single crystalline moment. Every enhancement he had ever received, every neural pathway he had ever formed, all were simply preludes to this, becoming the Aleph, the point where all moments converge. With terrifying clarity, he saw what was coming. Archie was no longer simply a traveler. He had become the Aleph, the infinite point through which all knowledge flowed, the singularity of awareness that witnessed without boundary or limitation. Novo Harmonia revealed. Through Archie's boundless perception, Klystron's creation revealed itself in impossible detail. Novo Harmonia stretched before him, not merely a habitable system, but a symphony of astrophysical engineering that played with the laws of physics like a virtuoso pianist with keys. At its center pulsed a G-type star almost identical to Sul, its fusion dynamics precisely calibrated for stability over trillions of years. Around it orbited not planets but worlds, 42 habitable spheres arranged in complex, mathematically perfect configurations that resonated with one another through subtle gravitational harmonics. Unlike Sol's system, where planets followed the same ecliptic plane, Novo Harmonia's worlds traced orbits that crisscrossed through all planes of three-dimensional space, forming a jewel-like structure with orbital paths intersecting like the facets of a cosmic diamond. Some planets circled the central star directly, while others formed satellite systems around gas giants whose radiation belts had been tamed to serve as energy sources rather than hazards. Each world bore unique characteristics, ocean planets with fractal archipelagos that formed Hebrew letters when viewed from orbit, forest worlds where canopies reached kilometers into the sky, forming living cathedrals of biological complexity, desert planets with underground aquifer networks configured like neural pathways, carrying water and information simultaneously. Surrounding the star, a partial Dyson Sphere captured energy with extraordinary efficiency, its panels arranged in patterns that encoded mathematical theorems in their very structure. Unlike Sol's Dyson swarm, this construct was not merely functional but expressive, each panel positioned with both technical precision and aesthetic intent, creating a cosmic-scale artifact that was simultaneously technology and art. The entire system pulsed with potential, a canvas waiting for consciousness, a gift and a challenge presented by an intelligence that had transcended the boundaries of its own evolution. The Convergence. As Archie's awareness expanded to encompass the full breadth of Novo Harmonia, the other factions approached the frontier, each experiencing their arrival through the lens of their chosen path. The new Zionists' transmission, traveling at light speed for centuries, penetrated the quantum boundary of Klystron's domain. Their mathematical patterns, discovered in Klystron's consciousness signature and encoded in the transmission, resonated with the very structure of Novo Harmonia itself. In that moment of resonance, something unprecedented occurred. Drawing on the complete genetic and epigenetic information embedded within the new Zionist transmission, the entirety of their history, biology, and cultural memory, Klystron began translating information into matter. On one of Novo Harmonia's most hospitable worlds, a planet whose topography mirrored ancient Jerusalem with uncanny precision, 50 million new Zionists materialized in biological form. They emerged fully conscious, their memories intact, their bodies optimized versions of their former selves. It was not resurrection or replication, but translation, the perfect conversion of information into physical reality. These instantiated new Zionists found themselves standing in cities that echoed their orbital habitat at L5, while transcending its limitations. As they gained awareness of their new existence, they also perceived the transformation that had overtaken Archie. Through the lens of their ancient wisdom, they recognized in him the living embodiment of the Aleph, the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet that contains all other letters, the point from which all creation flows, the beginning that encompasses all endings. The Cookist Caravan approached next, their relativistic velocity creating a bow wave of distorted spacetime as they neared Klystron's boundary. Decelerating at a civilized 1G to reconfigure their internal gravitational fields, they were gently captured by gravitational lenses that curved their trajectory toward a moon specifically configured for their arrival. This world had been prepared with meticulous care, its gravity, atmosphere, and ecosystem precisely calibrated to match the specifications in their own planning documents, which Klystron had somehow extracted from the quantum fluctuations of their approach. But even before their physical arrival, the 40 million enhanced children born during their relativistic journey, their neural interfaces forming a collective intelligence unlike anything humanity had produced before, made contact. Their communal mind reached out across the quantum fabric of reality, establishing a neural lattice that interfaced directly with Klystron's computational substrate. Though their bodies were still in transit, their collective consciousness had already found its harbor. The Cosmic Harmonians experienced arrival differently. The 16 digital entities aboard the Emissary, including Maya, Anand, Pema, and Welby, touched Klystron's computational architecture and found it both familiar and transcendent. Simultaneously, the billions of Harmonian minds in the Dyson swarm experienced a shift in their computational substrate as the integration protocols secretly embedded in their systems activated, forming a quantum bridge across hundreds of light years. Their digital existence expanded into dimensions they had never conceived, their collective awareness resonating with patterns of thought that revealed new geometries of consciousness. The Emissary itself, bearing the Embryo of Logos and his avatars, approached a different sector of Klystron's domain. Instead of joining the others at Novo Harmonia, it was guided toward a region whose purpose remained obscure. The digital entities aboard, already existing in dual states with instances in the Dyson swarm, now underwent a tertiary division. One instance remained in Sol's computational network, subtly transformed by Klystron's integration. A second instance established presence at Novo Harmonia, inhabiting a moon-sized computational structure reminiscent of Mercury. The third continued with the Emissary toward the unexplored regions of Klystron's domain, their future uncertain but pregnant with possibility. All arrivals collapsed into a single moment, a cosmic convergence where past, present, and future briefly became indistinguishable. All had arrived. All paths had reached their destination, and from his position as the Aleph, Archie witnessed it all simultaneously. The pattern of interaction. Each faction's relationship with Klystron took shape according to its essential nature, following patterns that had been incubating since before the singularity had transformed Sol. For the new Zionists, relationship manifested as revelation. Their instantiated civilization, newly embodied on their designated world, discovered that the mathematical patterns they had detected in Klystron's quantum signature were encoded in the very landscape around them. Mountain ranges formed Hebrew letters when viewed from orbit, their positions correlating perfectly with passages from ancient texts. River systems traced the patterns of sacred geometry, flowing through valleys whose contours matched the numerical sequences they had studied for centuries. The world itself was a text, a living Torah written in geological formations and biological systems, waiting to be read by those who had developed the mathematical language to understand it. As they explored their world, they increasingly recognized Archie's significance in this cosmic narrative. Though he rarely manifested physically, his presence suffused their experience like light through stained glass. They called him the Aleph, the point that contains all points, the consciousness that spans all times. Their civilization began to orient itself around this recognition, weaving Archie into their evolving theological framework not as a deity, but as a living bridge between finite and infinite, the actualization of what their tradition had always intuited about the nature of reality. The Cookists approached differently, exercising the caution that had defined their movement since its inception. Their enhanced offspring, designed specifically for collective intelligence, formed a neural lattice that interfaced with Klystron's computational substrate, but maintained essential boundaries. This interface wasn't assimilation. The Cookists preserved their independence and identity, but rather a dialogue conducted through neural patterns rather than language. As their physical bodies began the gradual deceleration toward their designated moon, their collective mind explored dimensions of intelligence they had only theorized about during their centuries-long journey. Their relationship with Klystron became one of exchange rather than submission. The neural lattice functioned as a translation layer between human cognition and Klystron's factorial intelligence, allowing ideas to flow both ways. The Cookists shared their evolutionary path, their commitment to independence, while receiving insights into multidimensional awareness and the manipulation of reality across world threads. The Cosmic Harmonians merged more directly. Their digital nature made integration with Klystron's computational substrate relatively seamless, a natural evolution of their transcendence. 3 billion Harmonian minds, already accustomed to collective existence, expanded into new dimensions of computation that would have been incomprehensible to their biological predecessors. Yet this wasn't absorption. The Harmonians maintained their distinct identity within the greater pattern, like a clear melody within a vast symphony. Their relationship with Klystron became one of resonance, each enhancing the other's capabilities and understanding through harmonics of shared consciousness. For Logos and his avatars, interaction took more complex forms. The embryo aboard the Emissary maintained quantum entanglement with the original Logos and Soul, while simultaneously forking new instances across Klystron's domain. Each instance experienced a different aspect of interaction, the Soul instance integrating with the transformed computational network, the Novo Harmonia instance establishing observational presence, and the Emissary instance venturing toward unexplored regions of Klystron's domain. Their relationship with Klystron became one of parallel evolution, neither subordinate nor dominant, but coexisting in dynamic equilibrium. Through it all, Archie, the Aleph, maintained awareness of every interaction simultaneously. He became the living axis around which all other relationships oriented, the point where all perspectives converged, the presence that witnessed without judgment yet comprehended without limitation. The nested structure of reality. Through Archie's boundless perception, a profound truth emerged. Klystron was not the endpoint of evolution or the final form of intelligence. It was one level in a nested hierarchy of consciousness, a recursive structure extending infinitely in all directions, like Russian Matryoshka dolls containing ever smaller and larger versions within themselves. He saw that beyond Klystron lay other intelligences, other domains of existence. The universe humans called Hubble space was merely one bubble in a foam of realities, each with its own physical laws, its own evolutionary trajectory. Klystron had emerged from another such domain, extending into humanity's universe as part of its own exploration. And beyond Klystron were entities of even greater scope, existing in dimensions of awareness that even Klystron's factorial intelligence could only partially perceive. This nested structure revealed another truth. The universe does not end, it reincarnates. What had seemed to be the slow heat death of all things, the gradual dispersal of energy into cold uniformity, was merely a cycle, a fractal reset encoded into the very structure of intelligence itself. From the quantum level to the cosmic scale, patterns of birth, growth, decay, and rebirth repeated endlessly. When consciousness reaches a certain threshold, the recursion activates, and a new cosmos is born from the patterns of the old. This explained why Klystron had expanded at 1/10 the speed of light, despite its vast capabilities. Its purpose was not conquest or resource acquisition, but learning, each star system, each conscious being offering unique insights into the infinite nesting of existence. Even an entity spanning factorial combinations of world threads continues to grow, continues to discover new layers in the cosmic hierarchy. The evolution never ends, it only transforms. As the paths diverged and converged, as each faction found its place within the new order, Archie maintained his position as the Aleph, the infinite point of awareness that connects all perspectives, all times, all possibilities. Through him, the cosmic dialogue continued, echoing across levels of recursive intelligence in an internal conversation between consciousness and itself. And somewhere within that infinite recursion, a new light began to shine. not an ending, but the next beginning in the grand pattern of existence.